And it's going to all make sense in just a moment why we're doing it. I'm going to mute it just so we don't get some echo once he starts. All right, I'm going to hold it there because I don't want to get bagged for copyright violation or anything. So the name of that piece of music, for those of you that are not old enough to have heard it, it's a piece by Strauss called Also Sprach Zarathustra, which was the theme song, very famously, to a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I titled today's broadcast Zarathustra, who we know better as Zoroaster, the founder of Zoroastrianism. And there's a couple of reasons that I chose that. So first of all, it made me think of that song. And that song is like, wow, it gives you goosebumps listening to it. The slow build and then the crash of change. And the movie that it's tied to is all about shifting your perceptions of reality and the changes that we have to go through to be able to recognize that we're not alone in the universe. We had to change our whole perspective. Interestingly, Zarathustra became most famous outside of Zoroastrianism in some writings by Friedrich Nietzsche, who was a great philosopher, psychologist, about examining the world, not just from our perspective, but really digging into what are the cogs in all the machines that create the reality that we're in, and how do changes at very, very base levels affect our overall being. So that's some high and mighty motivations for our title. Let me tell you why I chose that. So if you guys are Gold Lifetime members, we had some great discussions in this week's meeting about some things that we have going on in the Skillz movement. If you want to know, you got to be a Gold Lifetime member. But the format also followed so that Melody made it her thought of the week this week. So in order to stay, this holy trinity of awesomeness with our spiritual title here, just continuing on that theme, we're going to talk about her thought of the week and how it should cause us to re-examine everything, not from our own perspective, but really getting into the nitty-gritty, putting ego aside and expectation aside, and looking at what really needs change in our lives, in our businesses, and our teaching, and how do we do that without just scratching the surface? How do we do that at very foundational levels? So I hope you guys enjoy today and take something out of it. Please also join the conversation. So with all that said, John, good morning.
How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm getting ready to fully reopen pretty soon. So
you're reprogramming your system, and you're reprogramming everything in your studio around reopening.
Exactly true. And funny you should mention that.
By the way, our show is not scripted.
No. So the first step in any meaningful change is reprogramming. How many of us have tried to break a bad habit? If you've tried to break a bad habit or make a change in your life, I don't care what it was, smoking, weight loss, biting your nails, the way you speak to your kids. If you've tried to make a change, just type in the comments, me. I don't want to know what the change was. Sometimes that gets personal, but just we want you to know that this does pertain to you, especially if you've tried to make a change and it didn't go so well. I struggled with weight and body composition most of my life. Back when I was a hardcore athlete, fighting full contact, 3 tournaments a weekend, it's not such a big deal.
Yeah.
Now I'm a little older and I got some injuries and stuff that keep me out of that hardcore stuff. Change isn't as easy as, oh, dude, I'm just going to go crank out a couple extra sets at the gym. And John, I'm sure you see that in because you do more of the health and fitness type coaching as well. So I'm sure you see that in
Yes,
people.
yes, I see that all the time. And reprogramming is by far the hardest thing to do because everybody has their own stereotype or their own myth in their head about their health and wellness, right? But it goes with everything that we do, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's running a business or managing your life, you know, the reprogramming is very important.
It is, and very often we don't even realize it. When you're programmed, it's not that, okay, let me whip out the flip book and I'm going to go through this flow chart. When you're programmed, it becomes your core character trait, right? Somebody goes to punch you, you could be programmed to flinch from instinct, or through training, you've reprogrammed yourself to block or cover or move in a better way.
Yes.
It took a couple times of getting punched in the face to realize that what you were doing wasn't working. Um, and I guess this is about personal change, but it also affects the environment around us. So in this case, I think we're the cog. We're the piece of machinery that causes the bigger macrocosm. I'm in a group here in New York that's really they were key to getting gyms open in New York, and they've done an amazing job. And 90% of what we wanted happened. A couple little things went against what we wanted. So a lot of these guys are like high intensity trainers, high level CrossFit athletes. So to them, something like wearing a mask while training being the requirement is not ideal. Many of us are just looking at it as, okay, so I got to wear a mask. It's not ideal for the highest intensity training. How am I going to shift? How am I going to explain this and describe it to my members and my students and keep it in a positive? And how am I going to adapt my training programs? How am I going to, take all these steps to just make it like, this is what I got to deal with. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to reprogram myself. Versus the other half of the people are saying, there is no way, it's impossible, it's dangerous. If I put on a mask and do a push-up, I'm going to die. That's the programming. Now, is it ideal? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Can you make change to adapt to a few months of wearing a mask while you do your workout? Sure. So the question becomes, how are they making those mindset shifts to set their beliefs aside? Right? We've talked about BS before. How big is your BS? How big is your butt? Your
How big is
belief
your butt?
system,
Yep.
and what are the things holding you back? Your belief system is such that it stops. I can't do it exactly the way I want to do it, so I'm not doing anything.
I mean, listen, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. In either way, you're right.
Yep. Wasn't that Henry Ford, I think, said that?
Yes. And, we as adults, we tend to um, enforce what is right upon our children, upon our um, teens, but we don't enforce what is right towards us, and that's just not right. Okay. And if we are not able to recognize what is wrong and admit what is wrong, then what's the point? In this situation, if we are mandated to wear mask or to do the best practice to wear the mask, just do it. How is it going to hurt you? I mean, what's the big deal with it, right? But even if you have to work out with a mask, look at it this way. Your cardiovascular sucks. Let's admit it. Put that mask on, increase your cardiovascular. I mean, is it really that big of a deal? Is it going to really slow us down, or is it going to really, like, oh my God, I can't do my daily exercise because I have to wear a mask. If I wear a mask, I'm going to die. Trust me, I've heard it all already. We have heard it all already. We were just talking because one of the cities here in Atlanta is already mandating masks. What does that mean? Do you have to, if you're walking in public, Are you going to have to wear a mask too? Okay, does that mean if we have to go walk the dog, wear a mask too? Guess what? If it is, do you think we're going to stop walking because we have to wear a mask? I'm sure we can find a way to do it.
So it's also important to recognize that you have to reprogram yourself, because as a leader and as a coach and as an instructor, you are in charge of programming those in your care, right? It may not sound ethical, but that's really what you're doing. You're programming people to have certain mindsets. And what you put into life is what you get out. We've had the discussion about, if you're the instructor that goes into like the Century Group and you're like, what's the sale? I only want things if they're on sale. Can't you do a better price than that? How come it's not cheap enough? And usually in the next post, you're the same instructor going, people just don't want to pay these days. People suck because they don't want to pay for lessons and people are always late. You get back what you put out. So
wait. Say that again. Say that again.
You get back what you put out.
Energy flows where attention goes. We talked about that last week, and I think we're still stuck on that.
So, we're using the example of masks because it was a conversation I had yesterday. But it fits for everything. If New York, we can only open at 33%. And again, now it's a split. Half the people are saying 33%, that'll just break me even. That's not even worth opening. I'm not doing anything unless you open me all the way. And the rest of us are going, okay, I can open at 33%. That means this many people. How do I make enough money with this many people? What are the things I need to do? For the masks, people are projecting their own beliefs on other people. My students aren't going to want that. They're all going to quit. Well, how do you know? Did you actually ask them? Have you actually opened your doors and nobody came back? And even if they don't come back, are they then the people who are really supporting you? Are they the right people for your school? Whether it's masks or social distancing, or you can only do forms and no contact, whatever it is, it doesn't matter the challenge. It's what you put out there has to be sold as a benefit. You have to reprogram the conversation. Hey guys, we can only do 33% capacity. That means I can have 15 of you or 20 of you, whatever it is, on my training floor. This is going to be so awesome that I get to give you the personal attention. Now, you are going to have to wear masks. We're going to take it a little slower just to make sure everybody's staying safe, but we're going to make sure we get a great workout. There's still going to be some people that are, whatever, they're not going to come back. But I've just programmed people. I've prompted them what to think about it. So this reprogramming goes beyond me. It starts with me, but I think it goes far beyond us when we start making those changes in our own mindset, sending those ripples out to the pond. So that's why reprogramming is such an amazing first step.
I mean, it is the beginning of everything, and honestly, the end of everything. If you guys, we've been talking about The Secret lately because, Jennifer has been reading The Secret and the entire concept behind it since this whole thing started. And then I'm going back to read it again. And a lot of the things that people don't realize is, thoughts have frequency. Thoughts are magnetic, okay? So, for example, they always say, position yourself around 5 people who are better than you, right? Be amongst the lions, not the cats, things of that sort. So if in the back of your head, you're thinking that this is not going to work, this is not going to happen, I can't wear the mask, I can't do this, well, guess what? That's exactly what's going to happen.
You've manifested.
And you manifested that, exactly. Here's a story that literally happened to us fresh. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you have already faced that some way or another. I had a father that walked in last week, and this entire time, his daughter's been at home doing the classes. We had a testing, our cycle testing was last week. We did it a little bit early because we wanted to extend the fun time. And she came to the test and everything, she did great. And they saw the social distancing and stuff like that. Dad comes in Thursday last week, and he's like, Mr. Salama, when are you going to mandate masks? I'm like, well, honestly, I can't mandate it if the city, doesn't mandate it. He goes, well, you're a business owner. You can do whatever you want to do. And I was like, I know I'm not going to win this fight. Like right then and there, I know this is not something that a road that I want to go down. Okay. And it was like, Mr. Smith, look at our rules right here. You see where it states, to do what's best practice. You see where it says, parents and students should do this. If I make it mandatory, I'm going to lose people. If I don't make it mandatory, I'm going to lose people. In either case, I'm going to lose people. Guess what he told me after that? Mr. Salama, you're in a tough position. I was like, we're all in a tough position. What I can do is make people as happy as they can be given the current situation. So, Mr. Smith, your situation right now, you're speaking about wearing masks. If you want your daughter to come to class wearing masks, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I can't push it upon everybody else because I don't know what medical situation they have. His daughter came into class, she did class, and then in the middle of class, I was like, guys, I am so proud of, I'm going to say Jane, not to mention everybody's name. And she came in today. Thank you for joining us, your first day back on the floor. Thank you for wearing the mask, blah, 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 blah. Guess what happened that next class? The rest of the kids walked in the door with a mask on. I didn't make it mandatory.
So this actually leads into step 2. Once you've done that reprogramming of your thought patterns and your perception of the world and what you're projecting out, that was basically just the starting point.
Yes.
From there, you can't expect anything to happen unless you take steps to make it happen, right? The decision comes first.
Yes.
But action has to follow. And one of the things you do to make this a habit, so we started this off by saying who's tried to change a habit and maybe had a challenge with it. To actually change that habit takes some time. And step 2, training. So this is training of ourselves. We need those reminders. If I'm trying to change my mindset about things, whether it's business or masks or personal challenges like losing weight, this is where like coaches and mentors come in. And like, if I'm saying, man, I'll just never get skinny, I guarantee John is going to be all over my butt, changing my mindset, making sure I change my self-talk and coaching me to get back on track. That's training. So it's training of ourselves. And it can be as simple as, like, if I need to remember something, I either hold on to a penny. It's just something stupid that I came up with, because who holds a penny? And then every time I go, why am I holding this pen? Oh, yeah, because I have to do this.
Yep.
That's training. Friends of mine, whenever they wanted a cigarette, when they were trying to quit, they would wear a rubber band. And every time they wanted a cigarette, they'd give a little snap. So it's a little like jolt out of that old habit and a reminder to re-engage the new habit, because you can't really break habits, you have to change habits. So it's training. And then John's example was, he had a certain example that he set. He talked with somebody, not at them, and it actually fostered a change in his environment by the training that he was able to provide that kind of set their mind at ease a little bit. So, like, what do you do? Let's start with like you first. If you were trying to make your own changes in your world, mindset changes for business, life, whatever, relationships, how do you ensure that your own training is on point? Like, what are some of the habits that you do? I know you're pretty regimented with stuff like this.
I mean, I guess because we've got such, I'm going to say, like, leadership or influencers in our life. They kind of help us stay on track, right? So, like, for me, there are certain things that we do on daily basis to make sure that things get accomplished, right? But then again, we use everything that Skillz has taught us, whether it's intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, in order for us to do things, right? So, for me, I'm like, okay, so for example, the weight loss. Why did we decide to become health and wellness coaches? Is because we've been in the fitness industry all of our life, right? But then it was coming to a point that, here I am, a fifth degree black belt. I want to test for 6th degree black belt. And I'm like, I just don't like me right now, right? And I can either do something about it or push it off. Everybody pushes it off for a long time. My thing was, I would love to go to that test and have it to be my best black belt test ever in the 30 years, 35 years I've been training. Okay, so right off the bat, there was something there that I wanted to accomplish. I had this imagination in me testing, performing at best, doing at best, because it's a 6th degree test, right? I didn't want to go in there, being 50, 60 pound overweight, and having the grandmaster look at me like, well, hey, how are you teaching those classes if you can't do a sidekick in front of your students?
Yeah. And the grandmaster can accomplish that conversation with just looking at you, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, being able to have a program in place, a regiment, a on schedule, concept where I know, I guess, in terms of the health and wellness, I know what I need to eat, when I need to eat it, and, how to make it fast and quick. And I don't have to worry about cooking for hours in the kitchen. For us, it was like a no-brainer, right? And it doesn't cost me any extra than me going to the store and buying the food, except the food is being delivered to me. Wait a minute. You said the food is going to be delivered? Yeah. I don't have to go shopping? No. The only shopping I'm going to do is maybe go to the store once every 2 weeks and do the shopping for the 2 weeks for the rest of the stuff that you may need. But it was regimented.
Sometimes training is not teaching yourself what to do. It's teaching yourself what not to do or removing that temptation. Like if you're trying to change a habit, in this case, like healthy eating, if I go to the supermarket and I'm hungry and I'm going up and down the aisles, getting my lean proteins and my healthy greens, and I pass the Oreo cookies, guess what? I'm getting the Oreo cookies. They're vegan after all, right? I mean, they got to be healthy. Oh, but then I need milk. All right, so now I'm getting the milk that maybe is not good for my lactose intolerant. And next thing you know is like, well, man, cookies go good with ice cream. And it just goes downhill. If it's in the house, I'm going to eat it. So by having somebody else help me with that, it helps me stay on track with my training. By having Grandmaster as my motivation, my teacher means the world to me. He's my father. He's the only father I have left right now. So his approval is very important. So sometimes making sure I am taken care of in certain aspects is just as important as me taking care of certain things myself, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, when your own tribe or your own culture see you change in front of their eyes, you're going to be put on a different pedestal than where you are right now. So if they love you right now, they're going to love you more because they're going to see the changes. Not only that, they're going to want to be like you, right? They want to change like you. And it wasn't, the cool thing about it is it wasn't just me going through the program. For us, it was the entire family going through the program, which made it easier, right? Because we didn't have to go and buy this for this person and that for that person. No, we all as a family, like our immediate Salama family, we did it together, right? So you've got the support, right? You've got the accountability. We checked with each other. And it's the same thing that I do with my clients who are on the program. It's the same thing that I do with our clients in the Skillz coaching program when they're, coaching us. Hey, we talked about this last week. Where are you right now? And when they're talking to you about something new, wait, make sure you check those following steps in place to make sure that you do it right. So there is the reprogramming, right? If they're wanting to do a new idea or whatever, but also the training, right? And in the midst of the training, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing this week, right? I've got clients in Canada right now who are on the program. I check with them, right? Not because they're in a different country doesn't mean you don't check with them. Not because they're, not part of the Skillz program, you don't check with them. You check with them because the training is important. Okay.
So training is really important for you to realize that you need to be the one in charge of your training too. I mean, you can hire people to help you, and they're going to help a lot. But when it comes down to it, this is why you hear that discipline beats motivation, because there's going to be days when you're just not motivated. We have some big changes coming in the skills world and in our various businesses. And the question we get is, yeah, but how do you do that? Well, step one, you take step one and you just do it, right? If you're changing your business model, well, how do you do that? Well, you go down to the state division of corporations and you file new paperwork. Guess what? You just changed your business model. The next step is, well, how do you become that? Well, you find people who already know elements of what you need and you learn from them. It might not be instant. So this is where like the onus for completing the training is on you. Just because you go to college doesn't mean you're learning anything, right? It's your job to pay attention, to do the reading, to write the papers, to pass the tests. That burden is on you. So how do you learn it? You just do.
I was about to say that. I think we are living in a world right now that we want the answers right now versus researching for the answers. Because I can give you an idea. I can give you an idea that has worked for me. But that doesn't mean that the idea is going to work for you. So you need to do a little bit of research in your neck of the woods, in your area, to make sure that that same idea is going to work. Now, you can change it to make it work for you.
I like the word research that you just used. So when we talk about research, especially now, that's a hot word. I bet you if you go into like one of the keyword checkers, the word research is used a lot right now. What people mean by research is, oh, I read this article. And then I poked around and I read some more articles. And very often, especially if you're reading those articles on like Facebook or YouTube or Google, all of these platforms track your likes, your dislikes, your beliefs, your ideas, your perceptions, and they show you things that match what you already believe. So reading a couple articles by people that already believe what you believe is not research. I'm not saying it doesn't have value, but it is not research. And here's what happens. If you go in and, you guys know me, I write, like long, if you've ever messaged me like, hey, quick question, you get a book in return.
Yes.
So I have some pretty long blog posts floating around the internet. If you go read one of them, you'll get a lot of great information. How long are you going to retain it? Research means going out and doing the original work or compiling different viewpoints from others, because many studies that we quote are not actual unique studies. They are compilations of other studies, because data points are just numbers. They're just data points. It's how they correlate that matters. So taking 5 different studies and correlating that data does have value. So now going out and doing research to figure out what are sensory processing disorders. Why do kids have them? How do they manifest? Writing my own original paper about what I see anecdotally in my own experience versus these different scholarly papers and how it's manifesting and tracking it over time. This is research. You don't search for something by going, found it. You search by digging around and rooting through and looking actively for things. Researching just means you're doing that again and again and again. So training, the burden is on you not to look at something once, but John used the word research. Dig, own it, make it your expertise. We see it all the time. People join Skillz and say, I'm a child development expert. Well, what does that mean? Well, I use the Skillz platform. That's not what that means. What that would mean was you took what Skillz taught you, you looked at all the Skillz University stuff, you looked at every single bit of webcontent. There's something like 3,000 documents on the Skillz website available to you. You looked at all the documents, you look at all the blog posts, you look at all the parent letters, you followed all of Melody's blog posts and all of Melody's podcasts and gone to her trainings, and you've taken these Skillz certifications, and then you've taken all that as the starting point and gone on to learn about each of those topics. Now you get to start saying things like, I'm a child development expert. So research. So now, we did this reprogramming. We changed our mindset. We recognized some things. I don't want to use the word flaws, but some things that maybe could have changed. We've made some perception shifts, reprogrammed. We've taken the steps to gather the knowledge, expertise, and experience necessary to make these changes in our lives, relationships, and businesses. So we know a lot about a lot. What's next, right? Here comes the flywheel. How do you change your business model? You take the first step and you change your business model. You say, hey guys, I've changed my business model. But that's not enough. Then you have to register your business entity. Then you have to start marketing your business entity. Then you have to have your elevator pitch. Then you have to be able to describe in depth what it is you do, especially like we're about to create a new industry that does not exist. And no matter what I say about what I do, people are going to go, what do you mean? They're going to give me that squinty face, like the dog that doesn't quite understand why, you're doing what you're doing. And they go, what do you mean? You need to be able to have all of these steps in place. And when you continue building this snowball, we call it momentum. So let's talk about ways to build momentum in our lives. What does that mean? Like, what's this whole flywheel thing that we're always talking about?
If you got it, if it's working, if you did the research and you realize that it's okay, that is good things happening right now, right? Just stay with the flow. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep researching what you're researching. Keep speaking what you're speaking. In other words, if it's working, stick with it for a while, right? Make sure you understand it really well, and then let things take its course, right? Before you start changing things. You know what I mean? Like, there are school owners who are going from, $75 a month to $150 a month. You know what I mean? That's a drastic change, right? Now, there is nothing wrong with it, but, why don't you change it a little bit, play with it, keep that momentum going, then change it a little bit later, keep that momentum going, right? Change it a little bit later, keep the momentum going, little by little, versus trying to jump into things, right?
Hey, John, you ever run out of gas?
Oh, God. Rarely.
Sure.
But
to many of us,
it
though.
It has happened.
So I used to have this old 1978 full-size Chevy Blazer. I mean, this thing had massive tires. The engine was like ridiculously worked over. The thing had to weigh about 12 million tons. I ran out of gas about 3 miles from the gas station up in the woods one day. And I pushed that truck all 3 miles to the gas station.
Wow.
Pushed it across the street. Yeah, by myself. It took hours. I pushed that thing, man. And I got to the point where I made it over the hump in the road and I made it to the gas station. I just needed a break. I stopped for a second. Whew. All right. Let me push it up into the parking lot. I couldn't get that stupid truck up the 3-foot apron on the parking lot that had this tiny little incline because I was starting all over. I didn't have momentum. When I was originally pushing that 12 million ton truck, I went up hills and down hills. I hit bumps. I hit pebbles. I went over the crown in this road. All of it because I had momentum. I'm not saying it was easy, but I had the momentum to do it. Once the truck stopped, a single pebble under the wheel would have been enough to stop my forward motion because I didn't have momentum. So sometimes when we take too big of an undertaking, like John mentioned, going from 75 to 150, that's a big undertaking, and you don't have a lot of momentum behind it, the first 3 people are going to say no. And there's your pebble. There's that hump in the driveway. Because you didn't have momentum, 3 people said no, and you go, oh, this doesn't work. And you go back to where you were. But if you would have taken step up, then step up, then step up, like, Tim Flynn has been doing this over the past few months. He started at like 75, and then he went up, and then he went up, and then he went up. And now he's starting to raise his enrollment a little bit instead of the monthly. He's got momentum, and he knows that if somebody doesn't say yes, he still has potential for the next person to say yes, or he can back down a tiny bit and still have forward momentum and put on students. Whereas I think if he would have gone right from 75 to 150, it'd have been a challenge. Guys, you need to recognize that you're going to have pebbles in your road that are going to stop you, but you got to keep pushing. You're going to have setbacks, and sometimes you have to cross over the road to the other side where it's smoother, and that takes momentum. But the idea is every step that you take forward makes it easier for the next step to happen. So if I want to change a health habit, every pound I lose makes it easier for me to lose the next pound because I have motivation. Every cigarette that I skip makes it easier for me to skip the next cigarette. Or every time I cheat, but then get back on the wagon, makes it easier for me to identify myself as a person with a healthy lifestyle who had an off day, rather somebody who just can't do it because I just needed that candy bar. It's the momentum that gets us through things. It's the momentum of describing our business over and over and over again and tweaking it that makes us more able to describe that business. And I'm sure we see it in our students too. You get your student, oh man, I came in my first day and sensei said I was fat and couldn't do push-ups. You just broke their momentum. Sensei said he loved how I tried, even though I couldn't do the push-up, and he believes in me that next time I'll be able to do a whole push-up all by myself. I continued one level of momentum to aid in the stumbling block of some other aspect of training. So this is very important. I think it's the things that we don't see, the things that sideswipe us. Those are the things that break our momentum more. If I can see, like, nobody saw COVID coming. And when it hit, and half of us, you know who you are, said, that's not a real thing. And then your state closed down. And you scrambled, not knowing what to do.
The question is whether it's a real thing or not a real thing. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Whether you believe in it or don't believe in it, it's there. So it's either going to be there to stop you, or you're going to, roll with the punches, roll with your normal momentum and keep going. When it did hit us, there's a lot of schools that just froze, didn't know what to do. I'm not going to do the Zoom thing. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Well, because I won't. Well, you spoke it out loud, right?
You just created that. That's the reticular activating system right there. You said you won't. Your brain now finds ways to not let you.
Exactly. Where if you kind of went with the momentum of what's happening in life and you rolled with the punches and you try to kind of work it backwards because of the momentum of what's happening right now, you reprogrammed yourself and you trained yourself to continue with that momentum. A lot of the schools have thrived, and a lot of the schools are still there. Whether they're making it or not, they're still surviving. There. Yeah. They're surviving. What you don't want to be is to just like go, put your guards up and you're ready to fight. And I think that's the thing with a lot of us being black belts. And I admit it. I went through a point, I'm like, this is out of my control, but it's bugging me to no end. I don't know what to do, blah, 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 And there comes Jennifer. She's like, well, you said it. It's out of your control. So why are you fighting it? You can't fight this one. It's not like, we drug the school to the ground. It's not like we're the ones who caused this entire shenanigan. No, this is something that just happened. The universe just let it happen, right? And you can either focus on the negative side of it or focus on the positive side of it. I'd like to see momentum being on the positive side of things.
So one of my favorite quotes, and I'm gonna change it a little bit because it is a little off color. It's you have to look at things like a dog does. If you can't eat it, procreate with it, or play with it, pee on it and walk away. You just say, not for me, and you just move on.
Kind of like those stickers that go on the back of the Ford trucks. I'm just kidding. Did I say that out loud? By the way, we own 4 vehicles, 4 Ford vehicles. So.
They're parked on the side of the road, aren't they? All right. So different conversation. So, this is why momentum is actually one of the skills that we teach in extreme skills for 10 to 14-year-olds. You can look at it on the surface and say, it's just about teaching kids how to run real fast so they can get that good flying sidekick. Well, yeah, that's part of it. But we're also teaching them through the different drills and activities that we do that if you're running and you want a good jump, you don't run as fast as you can, then stop, and then jump. You run and then change the direction of that momentum to get the maximum height. If we roll a ball at you, a yoga ball, or the top of a wave master for the barrel jumps drill, you don't run and then go, oh no, something's in my way, and get hit, or then stop and try to jump over it, or move to the side or run away. You recognize that something's coming, adjust your pace and timing, so when it gets to you, you vault over it. Now, you don't jump straight up and down because you'll land on it and then you'll be in worse position. You continue momentum and adjust so that you can continue in a general forward direction, even though you had to change a little bit. So this is what momentum is. You're going to have these stumbling blocks and these things. Sometimes it's going to be your own bad habits or your own perceptions, going all the way back to the beginning. You're going to have to go back to the beginning sometimes. But that doesn't mean you stop. You keep building. If you can only put on 1 student a month, you keep putting on 1 student a month, while you're also re-examining, retraining, and testing through your training aspects what works, so you can build the momentum so that, oh wow, I put on only 1 student this month, but I didn't lose any, so I actually gained net 1 instead of breaking even. I can up my marketing budget this month. Now I'm putting on 2 students a month. Oh, well, now even with my regular 1 student of loss, I'm breaking even, and then I still have marketing, but all right, I'm going to put a little more money into this, even though I can't afford it yet. I put on 4 students this month. This is momentum. Summertime hits. I didn't put on any students this month. I better save that money. No, you better readjust and double down, because if you stop, you lose all your Facebook algorithms that have to start from scratch. You lose your knowledge of how to run ads because things change so regularly, plus you're just not doing it, so you have to fumble around. You double down. You go relentlessly on offense every time there's a challenge. That is momentum. So the 4th step. We've done some mindset shifts. We've trained ourselves how to do things. We've built some nice momentum. We feel good about the way things are going. We feel good about our ability to pivot and adapt and overcome, or to pee on it and walk away. So how do we know, is this just like a feel-good thing? Am I just blowing smoke and rainbows up my own butt? And if you're going to do that, you'll need yoga skills to have that flexibility. Shameless plug. Do I just feel good because I got 4 more students, but I don't have any more money in my school, or I don't have any more energy in my classes? That brings us to measurement. What are some of the things we can measure in our lives or in our businesses or in our relationships that let us know these changes were actually valid, or if I'm just fooling myself?
So it's going to depend on whether you're looking, at measurements as numbers, or you're looking as, the amount of research that you did and what worked or not. Measurements in terms of your mindset. Are you, constantly in that vibrant, mindset, or are you like going up and down from weak days to strong days? It's going to depend on what kind of measurements you're going to take, right? And at the same time, along with the momentum that you're having, and that third step, you're looking at, okay, what I'm doing right now is working, right? And a lot of times when we get really comfortable, when what we're doing is working, right? We're like, okay, it's working, so I'm gonna sit now. I'm gonna sit and relax. No, this is where measurement comes in. Do you get comfortable when things are working, or are you, you know, doubling down when things are working? So there is just a whole lot when it comes to measurement. So maybe this is time where we can break it down even more.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned there, you started off by saying, well, are you looking at numbers or, a lot of us as the leaders and owners of our businesses or managers of our businesses, we look at numbers a lot. How many leads did I get this month? What was my ad spend? What's my click-through ratio? What's my retention rate? How many people are testing? How much net income did I have? How much gross revenue did I make? Which program made the most money? We look at a lot of numbers, and numbers tell a lot, but they don't tell everything. We're in the process of eating really healthy lately. Our family is eating really healthy. We feel good. We've been shedding weight, and one of the ways we measure that is by stepping on the scale. And I've lost. I got to do the math. 40 pounds since March. I still have a little bit to go to be where I want, based on that measurement. And I do track my weight. However, things that aren't scale related, well, now I got to go buy new clothes. Now, my body doesn't hurt as much. I also know that I don't quite feel as good as I'd like to. A few years ago, when we were all in Discovery Group and we did the Primal Challenge, I lost a lot of weight there. Like I said, weight is one of my personal challenges. I lost a lot of weight there. And by the end of it, not only did I feel good, I felt good. I felt charged. I don't quite feel like that yet. So that's a non-number measurement that tells me, all right, I'm on the right track, but I'm not yet where I want to be. Because knowing when to stop something is also important. If you set a goal and you accomplish it, but then keep going, there's diminishing returns eventually. Mm-hmm. Not for everything, but for many things. So, like, what other non-numbers goals do we have? Like personal, relationship, business types of things?
Non-numbers goals. For example, when you were talking about the health and wellness, everything is based on numbers, right? But another thing would be like the amount of water that you're drinking, right? It still is a number, but it's not like a scale number, right?
Sure.
It could be that you're reducing your salt and sugar intake. It could be that, I got on the scale today. The scale didn't move, right, from last week.
Or however, what was your emotional response to getting on the scale?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I was getting to. You know what? I'm okay with it. I'm happy with myself right now. If I lose more, then that's great. Okay. So that one is not necessarily a number thing. It's what we call a non-scale victory. The fact that you got on the scale, things didn't affect you. Okay. It could be that now, instead of looking at the numbers, you've decided, you know what? I'm not going to get on the scale for a month. However, I'm going to start adding 2 15-minute walks a day.
And being able to.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people can't.
Or you know, I'm gonna boost his ego a little bit. Scott Lynn, you guys know Scott. He's one of our lifetime members in Skillz. He joined the health and wellness program with me, and he's been doing amazing. This guy dropped 43 or 45 pounds in 11 weeks.
Awesome.
Right now, he's like, I'm able to do jump spin side kicks in front of my students in the class, and I know I can end it. That's not a number.
And what a great example to set for your students. Remember, everything we do trickles out to our students. That's a fantastic example.
I mean, we always speak, when I was your age, I used to do this. Well, you know, sorry, bullshit. Show me. Students want to see it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Students want to see it. So the fact that you're able to do it in front of them and you're able to do something of a high caliber, that's not a number. So measurements doesn't always have to be a number, right?
You know, looking at your classes even, what's the quality of your class? You know, so not necessarily how many students you have, but maybe it's what type of students have you been attracting to your class, or how has the changes, because not everything is about like business success, right?
Sure.
What types of changes have you been making in your teaching methods maybe? You know, when you looked at yourself and reprogrammed like, all right, 4-year-olds were never meant to learn traditional Okinawan karate. It wasn't designed for them. So what can I change to make my program more attractive to them? And now when you come into your class, and yeah, you can look at your retention numbers are up and stuff like that, but you walk in and you are happy to be there teaching 3-year-olds. You know, you used to be the guy that said, well, I'm not a babysitter. I don't want to deal with 3-year-olds. And now that's your class that you can't wait to get into because the kids walk in and they're excited to be there and perform.
They should come and see the mini Skillz classes, the 18 months old having fun in our studio. Talking about babysitting. Dude, I would babysit them all day because all we're doing is laughing and playing. And for the 30 minutes that we're in there teaching the class, we lose ourselves into that class and we forget what's happening in the world. So if you don't want to be a babysitter, what are you doing? Why did you open that business to begin with? You are a babysitter. Sorry, like I don't mean it the wrong way, but if you're working with kids and you're teaching kids, you are a babysitter. I mean,
you're just making good use of the time with them.
Exactly. So, you know, please.
You know, I think the point here is like, we do have to measure, because if you're not measuring, you can never be sure of which change made the difference. And you also have to be mindful of making changes one at a time. You know, if you go in and change your complete business model and then something different happens, which part was the successful part? If you go in and you say, you know, well, I'm going to do this technique that I love to do. It's my go-to sparring technique. I'm going to change 3 things about it, and then it doesn't work. Which one of those 3 things was the downfall? Maybe it was that you stepped in instead of to the side. Maybe it was that you blocked instead of parrying. Like, if you change it too much, it's hard to measure. So measuring is important, but we also have to remember, numbers tell a lot, but they don't tell everything. Here's one for relationships, especially those of us that are so tied to our businesses, and especially those of us, people ask John and I all the time, how do you guys have such amazing relationships when you work with your partner? I've stayed in John's house as a guest, and I've watched how his family interacts, and they are as loving in person and caring for one another as they are on video. Listen to how John talks about his wife. In fact, Heidi and I have John Bingo. And one of the things on the John Bingo is every time he compliments his wife. So it's not John Bingo in a negative way. It's things that we notice about him that he has programmed into his life. Not a broadcast goes by where John doesn't say, I was talking to Jennifer and she helped me with this. Based on Jennifer's expertise, in Jennifer's blogs. So yeah, Jennifer's a Skillz, you know, part of the Skillz team, but she's not on here. He doesn't have to say those things. And it follows through when we go out to dinner. They sit next to each other. when we're in their home, they're talking about who needs to do what and backing each other up. Heidi and I, when we first started working together, everybody's advice was, don't ever let anybody know that you're a couple. That can never go into the school. And it became, wait a minute, I don't want a sterile environment. I'm teaching kids, and one of the things I'm teaching kids is about healthy relationships. Heidi and I have one of the best relationships that I know of amongst our peers. I mean, our peers have great relationships, but we're of an age, and we've been together for a while now. We still love being with each other. We love holding hands. We love, letting the kids see us. And then they ask, like, oh, you guys are a couple? And instead of getting the ew or that like, oh, that's weird, we get the, huh, okay. And you can see them processing that this is what they want for their relationships. So how has your business decisions, or how have your business decisions affected your relationship, a non-numbers victory? Do you create a business atmosphere that allows you to still be romantic and intimate with your partner? I don't mean intimate like that, although I guess you could measure that too, right? But are you stressed all the time and arguing about your business? We know some skill schools where it's couples own it, and they both want to be good, and they're both training, but they don't have an alignment. And it comes time to actually put plans in place, and they spend so much time arguing about it that nothing ever gets done. A victory for me with them would be, can you have a conversation with your spouse about the business while you are sitting not across a table from one another, but next to each other while holding hands? Even as it gets heated, that's a measurable victory for me if I can get them to do that. Everything else will trickle down from that.
It's huge. It's huge because, at the end of the day, if you agree to disagree with your partner in crime, your business is going to go down. But when you realize, and I've spoken to school owners and like, yeah, she's always right. I just don't want to admit it. I'm like, what's wrong with admitting it? It doesn't make you look weak. Dude, it's going to make your job easier. Huh?
If you look stronger,
it's going to make
somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
I'm wrong all the time, and I'll argue till I'm blue in the face, and then I have to go, all right, you're right.
There is nothing wrong with it, and it's okay to agree to disagree, but make it healthy.
You have to find out why you're disagreeing. Yep. Do you really believe you're right, or do you just want to not be wrong?
Yeah, and then also know your partner, know what they mean, and know what their habits are like. So there's sometimes when I'll go to Jennifer and I'll say that, blah, da, 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 da. She goes, wait, stop, nope, not doing it right now. She said, not doing it right now.
Yep, she didn't say no.
Right? She didn't say no. So it's like, okay, and I'll walk away. Right? And then I'll let it go. I'll drop it because I know she has taken all that on, but she just needs time to process it. Whether it takes a day or two, she just needs time to process it. And she'll come back and say, so the other day you were asking me about this. What did you mean? What did you want? What was your purpose behind it? What is, again,
so she's measuring.
Yes.
That's basically what's happening. She's measuring her capacity to deal with it. And then when she came back, she was not taking it at surface value. She was actually measuring what you were trying to accomplish and why. My daughter, when she was little, we call it the alley finger. If she was eating or just wanted to finish what she was reading or watching or had a thought, she would put up the finger and she'd turn her head to the side. And that was her way of just saying, I just need a second. I'm talking like when she was like 2-3 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know how she came up with the finger, but it's the alley finger. And it didn't mean talk to the hand. It meant, I just need a second. And that's important. That's measurable for me, that her attention was not ready for me and that it was I needed a different time to talk to her, just like you're talking about. So
Yeah.
all these measurements of everything is important. And what happens after we measure and we find a result? Here's scientific method. We go back to the beginning. We analyze why we got that result. We reprogram our thinking based on that result. We retrain ourselves to include that result. We build momentum based on that result, and then we measure again.
You want to hear a small, little, funny, but true story?
Sure.
Our studio of philosophy is actually developed around that window. It's what we call the constant and never-ending improvement, the Can-I warrior. Imagination, inspiration, actualization, realization. You imagine the goal, reprogramming. You get inspired to do the goal. You go through the training. You're actually in the process of achieving the goal, momentum, realization. You realize yourself finishing that goal, or you're realizing yourself that you're like, hey, it's actually happening, right? The measurements. Once it's all over, you go back and you start again. It's kind of like, the belting cycle that we do every single testing cycle. It's reprogramming for the new belt, right? It's reprogramming them for the new training.
Yes.
It's putting them through the momentum of the classes and all the, leveling up of the activities.
Yet knowledge is not linear. Usually people describe it as circular because you're always coming back. I like and I didn't come up with it. It was one of my college professors told me about it, that it's really a spiral, because even though you are always circling back to the beginning, you circle back as you go to higher and higher levels of understanding. If I ask my teacher what's the most advanced technique he knows, it's going to be sitting. What was the first thing he learned to do as a baby? Sit himself up, not fall over. And he went through and re-examined it and re-examined it and re-examined it. And he knows now that sitting in mindfulness, in peace, is his way to elevate himself. Not that flying kick, not the form with 1,000 moves, not the weapon stuff. Sitting. But he's sitting at a very different level than I sit. And I'm sitting at a very different level than my daughter sits. And she's sitting at a very different level than a toddler sits. So it always comes back to revisit the beginning. What happens when you get your black belt? You're ready to begin again.
It's a new journey.
New journey. All right, guys. So a lot of mindset in today. I know we're a couple minutes over as usual. It's what we do. I hope you found something out of it, and that as you go through the coming weeks, I know some of us are now opening or reclosing or reopening, having reclosed. Take a moment to step aside from your initial emotional response. Examine, like Zarathustra, examine the cogs in the machine, the very inner workings of the beast and the world around you, and discern how small changes can lead to new paths of discovery. Retrain yourselves that way. Retrain your minds and your actions, and then keep that momentum going, even if you have to step to the side or over. Teddy Roosevelt, over, under, through. Never back down. And then constantly measure. And when we're measuring, we're also looking for those wins. We're looking for what's not working. We are also working for those wins. You need wins. Next time you're feeling down, go break a board. It's a win. It's a stupid small win, but it's a win. And it will keep your momentum going. All right. So if you guys are challenged by this, you know how to find us. We're around. We want to help you with this in detail, not in general, like we talk about on the show.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. You know what you got to do.
It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday, y'all. We still got some time this week.
Yep. Plenty of time. Nobody says the week starts on Monday except the calendar. Start it right now. This is your fiscal week.
Yeah, my week starts every day.
Yep. We just never stop.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm of an age that when I stop, it's really hard to get back going.
I
All right,
hear you.
everybody. Go get it.
Peace out.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.